Hello. Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Michael Openshaw. I am the co-founder of the North Texas Tea Party. And for 52 years, on and off, I've been involved in grassroots conservative activism. We have an issue coming up in the very near future, here at the very beginning of the year. It has to do with who will be the leadership of the Texas House of Representatives. There is a contest that is to be had here, and I thought a little bit of background and why this contest is important to you as an activist and voter is important. What it really comes down to is, for many decades, we have dealt with a situation that's very, very fundamental. You have the desires of the actual constituents and voters and the people that they elect versus the desires of what I have come to term as the professional political class. These are people essentially paid for by various individuals. They represent various businesses, associations, whatever. They have a special interest in what the state legislature does, primarily how the state legislature spends its money. The basic operation, the basic goal of this professional political class quite often is to defeat the will of the voter. They take the representatives we send down there, convince them that they are the experts in the various fields, and you don't really have to listen to your voters. Now recently, just in the last 2 or 3 sessions, a court ruling has allowed us as constituents to have input on the selection of the Texas House Speaker. Prior to that, it was actually illegal for us to even talk to our representatives about this. This is a great opportunity for us to have impact as constituents and advocates to balance some of the professional political class that is out there. In this particular instance, we have a race that has been set up. We have Scott Turner, who is a solid, principled conservative, who is running against the established Joe Straus. Now, Joe Straus has been in office for several terms now as Speaker, and they will try to tell you, any number of representatives who have already committed to him or are planning to commit to them, that will tell you, says, well, we can really get conservative things done with Joe Straus as our speaker. Problem is, that doesn't fit historical fact. There are certain things, yes, that conservatives have managed to get accomplished in the last few sessions. Most of it despite Joe Straus. Joe is an individual who is a very nice guy, but he got his original power base from the Democrats in the House. He originally overturned a seated speaker by name of Craddock by consolidating all of the Democrats with 11 Republican representatives. He still owes essentially a debt to the Democrats, and he pays that debt primarily not by getting Democrat bills passed, because there's simply not enough of them in the legislature to matter. He does it primarily by making sure certain bills that the Democrats and the more moderate factions of the Republican Party do not want to pass to come out of committee. He selects committee chairmen who bottle up very common sense type of bills in committee. Texas, for example, is one of the few states that has no provision for the open carry of handguns. Now, for some of us in the city, we think, oh, open carry of handguns, might be a problem. But consider the rural folks, which who do run into situations where they do have to use handguns on things like snakes. Texas is one of about 6 or 7 states that has no provision whatsoever for you to carry a handgun openly. You can carry a long gun openly, which is not a convenient thing to carry, from time to time. And you can carry a handgun concealed, but you do not have the option to carry it openly. So why is this? This is a bill that would pass if it ever hit both floors. There's no question. This bill would pass if it hit both floors. The reason is that there are people who don't want this bill, but they don't have the votes, but they are owed enough that it never somehow seems to make it through both houses intact. We have a series of things that do happen in the legislature under leadership like Joe Straus. We have what I call kabuki theater that goes on all the time. You will have representatives submit bills that are highly conservative and then go back behind the scenes and tell the committee chairs that will hear these bills, hey, I really don't want that bill passed. I just have to submit it to make it look good for my constituents. This type of activity has been going on a very long time, but it is time for it to stop. And we need leadership in the Texas House to stop it. It is not going to be stopped until leadership changes. So we are going to make an attempt in this instance to elect Scott Turner as the Texas House Speaker by encouraging all of our representatives to vote for Scott. There is no question Scott is a conservative. Any attempt to paint him as anything different is laughable. He is also a very principled individual. He is a very strong-willed but principled individual who believes in fairness. He is also one of the least vindictive politicians I have ever met. He will not, like almost every other speaker, lead by the club. He will lead by the persuasion. So this is the type of leadership Texas deserves in the House, and that is what we're working to get. We need all activists to encourage their representatives to vote for Scott Turner for Speaker. And if they plan to vote for Joe Straus, get them to actually say why. The problem that they're having here is there is no constituency movement for Joe Straus to remain as Speaker. Constituents don't want him. Not the constituents who are willing to stand up and speak. What happens is the power brokers in Austin have become accustomed to Joe Straus, and they kind of like the way things happen. And various representatives are fearful of voting against Speaker Straus in case he wins. Oh, I'm not going to get the committee assignments. I'm not going to get this. They have to remember what the name of their position is. Representative. They need to represent their constituents. Now, the whole thing about what committee assignments and all that, if you vote what your constituents want, that is what you were sent there for. It is not to gain power. It is not to get little goodies in the background. It is to vote for your constituents. I would also like to add some other information. Let's be politically practical here. Let's look at the history. Joe Straus was elected with 11 Republicans who joined the Democrats. How many of them are left in office? Very few. 3, maybe 4 if I remember correctly. It is a lot of them have gone away. These are longtime politicians that don't go away easily or voluntarily. A lot of them are gone. A lot of his lieutenants have failed in election. A lot of his lieutenants have tried to move up. Several of them tried to move up this last time in statewide offices and lost badly in primaries. Bluntly, being a lieutenant or leader with Joe Straus is politically detrimental to your political future. It just has proven to be so over the last few terms. But how about his opposition? Well, the first person who ran against Joe Straus was Ken Paxton, and you might want to ask our new state attorney general how detrimental going up against Joe Straus really was for him. Anyway, so there are practical political reasons, Mr. and Mrs. Representatives, for you to reconsider supporting your support for Joe Strauss in this environment. It also adds to the divisiveness within the party, that the constituents are not getting enough of what they want out of the legislature, and will continue not to get that stuff as long as Joe Strauss is Speaker. He has no history of opening the doors to allow votes on common sense conservative items unless political payment is made first. So, these are the issues for the constituents. For our representatives, the vote is going to be January 13th. It'll be the first vote that your representative will make. And this vote will determine what he gets to vote on from there on. Now, your representative votes for Strauss may end up having a very conservative record afterwards, because most very conservative bills will never see a vote on the floor. That's very important. Especially, this is very important this time around because there's substantial changes that we have made in the state Senate to where there is not going to be an impediment to common sense conservative bills to clean up some of the mess we have out there. Like the mess in things like property taxes, the lack of school choice, the lack of open carry. All of this will no longer be impeded by the Senate. Some of the more moderate factions supporting Joe Strauss have bragged that Joe Strauss will stop the conservative train this time. It is you, the voters, I don't think want the conservative train stopped. That train ran over a lot of people, both in the primary and in the general election in 2014. It's delivered a message. The message needs to be listened to. So, if you're an advocate, a conservative, you're a concerned voter, contact your state representative. Find out what they're going to do on that first vote of the legislative session, scheduled for January 13th, and encourage them to listen to principle and listen to their constituents, whatever their constituents say, and follow that and not the professional political class in Austin. This is Mike Openshaw, and these are my thoughts on the speaker's race, and I certainly hope you as activists will stand up, and this is the time to do this. We have a Boehner in Washington, D.C. We have a chance and a challenge against our own equivalent of Boehner here in the state legislature. Let's get this done. Thank you very much.